So, the first two nights went really well. The first night we talked about how we need to make a decision awaken our individual selves. Sometimes even Christians fall asleep. And we have to make a decision to wake up and be the temple that God called us to be. The second night, we talked about our responsibility towards the outside world and how we have to be a people that accepts other people that most people wouldn't accept, as you saw from that video clip. It's pretty shocking to hear. But we need to become a people like Jesus was, who accepts people and hangs out with people that other people wouldn't usually hang out with. And tonight we're going to talk about a little about our responsibility towards each other. Not only towards our families, but my responsibility towards you, and your responsibility towards me. And that's what we're going to talk about. We have this idea about Jesus regrooving our lives. Whoever had a record player? Yeah, a disc, record player. I talked about this one time. I had a record player, and I'm not that old. And on a record, there's what they call grooves. And the needle goes through the grooves, and it plays music, right? And the needle won't jump across the grooves very easily unless you push it physically, right? It stays in the groove. It's kind of like us, where we're in even bigger grooves. We walk in grooves that are maybe 6-7 feet high. Every single person here has grown up in a different way. Their culture, their family, their mom and dad has shaped everybody here in an individual way. And everybody here is walking in a very big groove, and it takes a lot. It takes a lot of force from the outside to push you out of that groove into another groove, into another path. It takes God, it takes people, it takes like a big occasion in your life to change you from one groove into another, from one path into another. And so that's what Jesus does. Jesus comes and changes our path from one path to another. Sometimes we don't like it, but that's what he came to do. That's why people tried to kill him, because he gave him another option. He said, the path you're walking in is wrong, and you need to walk in this path. So every single person here, even today, is in some path, you have some habit or something that you think is right, something that you learned from your parents and from the times in your life. And you will never change that unless something happens and unless you open your eyes sometimes. It just takes a lot. And so Jesus regrooves us. Last night you saw a clip from a movie called The Matrix. And in that, the character Neo chose to get out of the groove. He said, I'm going to take that red pill. I don't know what it's going to be, but whatever you're telling me is the truth, and I want to know the truth. That's what he said, and he picked the red pill. In fact, in that movie, there's somebody like him who opened his eyes, took the red pill, and he's living in the real world now, not in the fake world. But he didn't like it. It was so hard, it was so tough to live in that world that he told, we'll call the bad guys, he said, I'll do anything for you, just put me back in that false reality. And what he does is he goes against the good guys so that he can go back to that false reality. He says, I made a mistake taking that red pill. I see the truth and I don't want the truth anymore. I want to go back to that false reality. Even though it's fake, there's nothing real about it. He wants to be in that false reality. So sometimes we do that. We hear the truth. Jesus teaches us a lot, and we don't want to hear it. We don't want to accept it, and we want to just ignore it. We put blinders on, and we say, you know what? I was happy not knowing the truth. And that happens a lot when we hear about bad things happening in the world. You don't want to hear it, because it really hurts, especially when you see bad things happening to kids. You just don't want to hear it. And so Jesus regrooves us. He opens our eyes. He takes us away from the false reality, and he takes us into a harsher reality. It's hard, but it's the truth. And one thing he does is he regrooves our relationships. He regrooves the way we talk to each other, we deal with each other. Relationships are one of the hardest things for humans to deal with, right? Who thinks it's easy to have a relationship with someone? Any relationship, mother, father, spouse, brother, sister, sister. It's the hardest thing because you have two people that are completely different. Even though you have mostly the same genes, you're completely different. And you're butting heads like rams on a cliffside. That's what relationships, that's what happens to relationships. Two different people are trying to agree on one thing, and it's just hard. And Jesus comes to regroove our relationships. He comes to tell us, you're doing relationships wrong. You need to fix it. You need to change the way you're doing relationships, not like the world. And so everything starts with what we believe about Jesus. Everything starts with what you believe about Jesus. With what you believe, who he is, what he came to do, what he stood for. Everything starts there. If we think he didn't care about the poor, then I won't care about the poor either. If we think that he didn't came to serve people, then I won't serve people either. If we think that he came to just forgive sin and nothing else, then that's what I'm going to focus on. But Jesus came to do a lot more than sometimes what we think. And in Matthew 20, he transforms our view of what it means to be great. He transforms our view of what it means to have a relationship with one another. Whoever heard of the story where James and John goes to Jesus and asks him to put him on his right hand in the future? That's in Matthew 20. James and John, the brothers, they go to Jesus and they say, in the future when you're king, they think he's going to be a king on earth, please put us on your right and your left. And Jesus just looks at them and says, you got it all wrong. You have it all wrong. Your view of relationships is all wrong. Should I do something different? Should I stand somewhere different? He says, your view of relationships are all wrong. Is that better? Yeah. Okay. So he says, your view of relationships is all wrong. Your view of greatness is all wrong. They've grown up in that culture. Okay, just like we grow up in our culture. We're taught a certain way that this is what it means to be great. You got to do this, you got to be this, you got to drive this kind of thing or whatever. This is how you become great. So James and John were taught in their own way how to become great. And they come to Jesus and they say, in the future when you're king, please put us at your right hand and your left hand. And Jesus says, you got it all wrong. And he tells them, he regrooves them, he changes their path and says, this is what my idea of greatness is. And he says in verse 26, instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be first must be your slave, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. He says, whoever wants to be great among you must be what? Your servant. Whoever must become great must be your servant. And he says, I'm an example, just as the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve. I mean, imagine if Jesus came and said, all of you humans must serve me and love me and take care of me. It was the complete opposite. He came and said, I'm going to serve humanity. And so that's what he did. And this generation doesn't like this idea. Just this generation we live in does not like this idea. I was reading a study about the generation now. Not you guys, but like people in their 20s and 30s. This generation. And it was really interesting to read about it. They said that parents in the last 15 to 20 years have raised kids this way. They tell their 3- and 5-year-old girls that they're little princesses. And nobody in the world deserves them. And etc., etc. And they haven't achieved one thing in life. And they tell their little boys that they're kings, that they're rock stars, that they're this and that, and they haven't achieved one thing in their life. And so these kids are growing up with the false reality of who they are. And so when they're now in their mid-20s and 30s, they have been released into the world, and we have a bunch of kids walking around with a false reality, thinking they're entitled to everything. And they have a stat where most of the people going into the workforce right now, they expect they're entitled to a promotion within 2 years. And they haven't even done one thing in their life. And so we are releasing these princesses and kings into the world, and yet they're not acting like that. They haven't achieved anything, yet they think they're entitled. So we have created a generation of these kinds of people. Imagine what America might look like in the next 10 years if we don't do our job with our kids. Instead, showing our kids love in a right way, not giving them a false reality, a false hope, but showing them the Jesus way. And this could be reflected in our churches sometimes. We grow up, we think it's all about me, I'm entitled, it's all about me. Imagine raising your kids with 1 John 3:16, where it says, "This is how we know what love is, that Jesus Christ laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters." Imagine telling your 3-5-year-old that verse every day instead of giving them a false reality every day, a false hope and a false reality, and telling them that nobody deserves them. Instead, telling them that this is what it means to have real love, that Jesus Christ laid down his life for us. So you, my son, my daughter, you need to lay down your life for your brothers and sisters. Imagine the kind of generation that we have if people are growing up with that kind of view, and instead of the view that it's all about me, and I'm entitled, and I'm number one, and I deserve a promotion, and nobody can tell me what to do. Imagine that. Imagine the difference, the kind of people that the church can raise. We're going to watch a short clip from a movie. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the movie first. It's about a man who lives in a big city, maybe as big as Pasadena, but it's a movie set. Everybody in that city is an actor except him. He doesn't know it. He thinks it's the real world he lives in. And he was a baby, and the show's all about him. It's about him every single day of his life. And at this point in the movie, he's in his 40s. Every day in his life, his first fall, his first tooth, it's a show that they show the world. And it's a movie set. It's a big dome. Everybody in that city is an actor except him. And he thinks that's the real world, and that's all he knows. But later on in life, he starts seeing some odd things like a camera falling out of the sky. He starts seeing that, life is too perfect. There's no way my neighbor every single morning is saying, "How are you? Everything's perfect." And there's no way that the salesman every day is trying to sell me something, and he's getting promotions everything is perfect. And he starts seeing that, there's something wrong with life. And he starts having these dreams of wanting to go to Fiji. And of course, that's impossible. He's in a movie set. They can't let that happen. So they raise him up being afraid of boats and planes. Certain things. His fake dad died in a boat. I mean, he was shocked as a kid in that movie. So he never wanted to go in the water. So they did everything they could to keep him in that movie set so they could keep the show going. And so, but suddenly he started seeing that there's more to life than this perfect life he's in. He was in a false reality. So we're going to watch this for 3 minutes. If somebody can get the light. And he was going out on the boat trying to find truth about his life. And so in the end he hits the wall, which is the end of the city, the end of the set. And the director and the creator of the show tells him there's no more truth out there than there is in here. He says out there's war, there's this and that. In here it's perfect. Your neighbors are perfect. Everything's perfect. But in the end, Truman still decides to go out. No matter how hard it might be, he doesn't want the false reality in his life. He wants the real life, the real truth. And that's what Jesus offers us. Even though it's harder, we have to sometimes wake up from this false reality we put ourselves into. We lie to ourselves a lot. We say life is perfect, life is that. But only God knows what's going on in our lives, and we have to face that truth. We have to answer this one question tonight. How will we live in this world? How will each of you live in this world? You have to answer that. How will we live in this world? It depends on how you think about the world. Think about that for a second. Depends on how you think about this world. Mark Knoll, he's a historian, he said this. For Christians, the way we think about the world, it's very easy, it says. For many, it is easy to adopt the instincts like a herd of cattle of mass popular culture. He says, for many it is easy to adopt the herd instincts of mass popular culture. What does a herd of cattle or a herd of sheep do? They eat when everyone else is eating. They drink water when everyone else is drinking. They walk. They stop when everybody else is doing whatever they're doing. And he says for Christians many times it's very easy to adopt the herd instincts of mass popular culture. Just going with the flow. This is what everyone's buying, let's buy this. This is what everyone's doing right now, let's do this. This is what everyone's doing, let's do this. And that's how we think about the world. We just adopt the instincts of what everybody else is doing. And then we assume that life exists as a series of opportunities, he says, for three things. You might not believe this. You might say, that's not me, but sometimes our actions speak louder than words. That life exists as a series of opportunities for pleasure, self-expression, and an increase of comfort. He says that's how we view life. That's how we view the world. That's the wrong way. But he says that's how we view everything. That life is just a series of chances to get more pleasure, to express ourselves in our own selfish way, and third, the increase of comfort. Think about it. When I'm this age, I need to have done this. When I'm this age, I'm going to do this. When I'm this age, I'm going to do this. By this age, I better have done that. Life is a series of chances to just get pleasure in many different ways. And to have self-expression. Nowhere is this better seen than Facebook and Instagram. The more I read about this generation, I go on Facebook, I'm like, wow, they're all right. You know, I don't want them to be right, but they're right. You look at Facebook and Instagram, and everybody is just saying, look at me and look at me every single day. Please, somebody tell me that I'm important. Look what I'm doing. I need to show the world that I'm doing something with my life. That's what Facebook and Instagram have become today. A series of chances to just tell everybody about yourself, that I'm doing something with myself. And the increase of comfort. Every chance to increase my comfort level at the expense of other people. He says that's what a lot of people view life as just different chances to have pleasure, different chances to express myself in my own selfish way, and different chances to increase my comfort level each day, no matter what's going on around me. That's the false reality. That's the matrix that you saw. That's the Truman Show. That's the false world we live in. Instead, we need to have this view that life exists, possibly. Life exists as a series of opportunities to serve Jesus, to serve Him, to be like Him, and to obey Him. Think about those different worldviews and think about how you will live in this world if you have that worldview. If you have the first worldview that, life is just about different types of pleasure, self-expression, just telling the world about myself, and about increasing my comfort level at the expense of everybody else, you will live like the rest of the world, like a herd of cattle. You'll see it on Black Friday, you'll see it on every other day. It's just like doing whatever the whole world is doing every single day for the rest of our lives. Going into debt, getting out of debt, going back into debt, going out of debt. That's the herd of cattle that the world is teaching us to be. Or life exists as a series of chances to serve Jesus, to be like Him. And maybe, just maybe, life exists as a series of opportunities to serve others. Think about that. Think about the generation that will come up if we have this idea in our heads that life exists so we can serve Jesus every day. Life exists as a series of chances to serve other people. That's not how we think, but that's what the Bible teaches us. That life exists as a series of chances for every person here to serve other people. And so Jesus taught us about service, especially in John chapter 13. And in John chapter 13, it was a little bit before the Passover, Jesus got up, took his outer robe off, and he acted like a servant, and he washed the disciples' feet. And what did Peter say? He said, "No way." I would say the same thing. Imagine, by this time, he saw everything Jesus did. He was a great authority figure. He was a great preacher. He healed people, and I'm a sinner. And I would be like, don't touch me. You know, you shouldn't wash my feet. I should wash your feet. And what did Jesus say? Exactly. If I don't wash you, you will have no part in me. You need to let me do this, he said to you, as an act of love. You need to humble yourself, he said, and let me do this as an act of love to wash you. And then what did he say? He said, this is chapter 13, verse 12 and on. He says, "You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am." And he says, "Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you." So he did that so that we will wash each other's feet. Think about the way he's regrooving us. The things the world teaches us is to think about ourselves, just about ourselves. Express yourself. It's only about you. You go on Facebook today and it's amazing. Half the people, some guys one day will say, "I hate all women. I don't trust any of them." And then girls will say, "I hate all men. They're all liars. I don't trust any of them." Just it's constantly, it's funny. I love it. I'm glad it's there because I get to really see the truth about life. People don't hide anything on Facebook, Instagram. So imagine if we change our minds about life and we say it's not about gaining pleasure, it's not about expressing myself in my own selfish way, and it's not about my increase of comfort at the expense of my brother and sister, but life is about every single chance I get, every single day at work, at school, to serve Jesus and also to serve other people. It's easy to serve Jesus. We say, "I'll just pray to him." But it's hard to serve other people, right? It's hard to serve other people. But Jesus says, by serving others, you serve me. And so he washed Peter's feet and he said, "I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you." Maybe this means that as a husband, you need to love your wife more and care for her more and respect her more and do more chores around the house. Maybe this means that as a wife, you have to try to get away from what the media describes you as. And what does this media describe women as, usually? That they like to spend the husband's money. Things like that, right? They make a joke out of it. Like the husbands are the slave and the women can do whatever they want. Maybe as a woman, as a wife, you get this story and you say, maybe it means that I need to respect my husband and treat him like a king more and help him save that money that he earned. Maybe it means that. And maybe it means for kids to serve their parents more by working and paying them back for all the things they've done for them. Everyone's laughing. And maybe it means for you to love that neighbor that usually people don't love. Maybe it means that you do something good for that neighbor that you really don't need to do. You have the right not to do. But you know what? We're not entitled to anything. We don't have the right to anything. So maybe it means we just need to serve people more. But Jesus said, "I have done this for you so you can do it for other people." And it just doesn't mean just to wash their feet. It goes deeper than that, of course. to really love people, to sacrifice your life for people, to forgive people, not to be bitter against people. That has no place in the church, right? Bitterness, gossip, and hate. No. In the church, there's only room for love. And through this, we find our identity in Christ. Truman, he didn't want the fake, easy life. He wanted to really know who he was. He said, "Who am I?" After 45 years, he still didn't know who he was. And the director said, "Well, you're the star of the show." But that's not who he is. That's fake. That's not the real world. So he went out to find out who he was. And so each of us, we find our identity in what? In Christ. Nothing else. Not in what we do, not in the things we have. We find our identity in Christ and in serving Christ and serving others. I don't know if a lot of you see this in front, but we have a lot of water in bowls. And a lot of people ask me what's going on. But this is what we're going to do. And you have the choice not to do it. Everyone's free. But I don't know if you've ever washed anybody's foot before. You know, it's really hard to wash people's feet. And you don't need to. I know some people are like, "I'm never coming back here again." But you don't need to wash anyone's feet. But you're going to have a chance to wash someone's foot that you want to wash someone's foot. You have the choice to do it. Okay? So if two people get up and do it, that's fine. We're not getting up yet. Let me explain this for a second. The feet are pretty dirty, right? Usually. And especially back in the day when they were walking in sandals and dirt, somebody in the house would wash the feet. And our Creator, who already knelt down and became human. Think about that. He already did the worst thing possible, is God became man. He knelt down and became a man. And while he was a man, he knelt down once more, a second time, and he washed our feet. That's embarrassing for a lot of people to think about that. He knelt down twice. Once to become a human, and then once to wash our feet. And Peter said, just like a lot of you, like, "No way, man, are you kidding me?" And Jesus said, "I have to do this for you." Okay? And we're going to have a chance to do that. Okay? So right now as I'm talking, maybe there's someone on your mind that you want to wash their feet. Somebody that has been a good example to you. Somebody that you love. Somebody that you've seen in the church a lot, and you just want to do this for them. You want to show this act of love, this act of servanthood. And think about who you might want to do that to. You might want to do that for. There's just one guideline. Well, a couple guidelines. One important guideline, though. If somebody washes your feet, don't repay the favor to them. Let's say that again. If somebody washes your feet, don't wash their feet. Okay? Just let them wash your feet and that's it. If you really want to wash feet, you could pick somebody else and wash their feet. And nobody needs to do it. You're not a bad person if you don't do it. It's just for those who want to do it. Okay? And it's something that it's an act of love towards another person. And it's very hard. I know it's very hard. A lot of you might be hating me right now and are saying, "I wish I didn't come." But it's something that we're going to do, and it's an act of love towards another person. Yeah. So we see up here there's 20 bowls. And when you're ready in a few minutes, and Stephen's going to come up and sing while we're doing this, you can go and get the person. And please, if you're getting chosen by somebody, it's already hard for that person to come to you. Don't say no to them. Don't say no to them. But bring that person up here and wash their feet. And you can put one rag on the ground. Don't put your feet in the bowl. Don't put your feet in the bowl. Okay? You're going to put one rag on the ground next to the bowl, because we can reuse those bowls that way. And this, culture of like, I'm going to get germs and something's going to happen. And put the foot on that. Wash it with the other rag. Dip the rag in there, wash it. Don't dip it twice, no double dipping. And then dry it with the other rag. Okay? And then they can go back to their seat. And if it's somebody that can't go up here, you can take the bowl to them. and wash their feet back there. And if you want to wash someone's feet and you're not able to get up and come here, ask me, ask somebody else to help you, and we will bring the bowl over to you and the person that you want to wash their feet. So, this is not just an action like, oh, we're going to have fun and wash feet, but this is something Jesus did. Okay, and I'm not too good to do this, you're not too good to do this. God wasn't too good to do it. Okay, Jesus knelt down and washed Peter's feet. And listen to this one more thing. Jesus washed Peter's feet, and what did Peter do within a day or two to Jesus? He denied him 3 times, and Jesus knew that. He said, I'm washing this guy's feet, and he's going to deny me. He told me he loves me, and he's going to deny me 3 times, and he still washed his feet. So, it's an act of love towards somebody. I ask you not to pay the favor back to that one person. You can pay it back to somebody else. Okay, and we're going to have a few minutes to do that while Stephen comes up right now and leads us with a song called Lead Me to the Cross. Yeah, okay, and you're free to come up and start doing that.
Redemption till where your blood was spilled for one ransom. Everything I want to tell you, I count it all as lost. But we need to the cross where your blood poured out.
So we have a chance to live differently. We have a chance to wake up from our false reality, to take that red pill, to walk out of that movie set and go to a harder life, a life that you won't like. But that's the way of Jesus. And he regrooves and changes the way we think about relationships, the way we think about life, that it's not all about me. It's not all about me, but it's all about the other person right in front of me. And that's how we need to be. That's how we need to be in our church, loving each other and caring for each other, sacrificing our life for each other in many different ways. Kneeling down when we think we're higher than others, but kneeling down sometimes even to wash someone's feet, taking care of somebody. That's the kind of life that Jesus called us to live. Not like the rest of the world, just going one way down the cliff into nothingness, but living the way of Jesus every single second of our life. So with that in mind, let's pray together and let's be renewed. Lord, we thank you for the example you gave us in the life of your son Jesus and how he defined greatness for us, and that is to serve others. And we're sorry that we teach our kids otherwise, that greatness is defined by the things they do and how they look like, and defined by the world, Lord. And help us teach others and teach our kids that greatness is about servanthood and love. That's what it means to be a great man, a great king, a great princess. I pray that we learn this style of servanthood that Jesus taught us, to wash others' feet, to serve them when we maybe don't feel like it, to love our neighbor when we really don't feel like it, and help us love each other in the church and care for each other and be honest with each other, and help us face that real reality each day. In your name, amen.
Amen.